I'm now going to start with part 2 of the AnaJet Photoshop training tutorial. What I want to show you is there's a few different ways we can also remove the background without having to use the magic eraser tool. The magic eraser tool is probably the easiest and fastest way to do it and the most simple, but I'm going to show you a few more ways. So here's our image again with the white background. Once again, our background is locked, so it's already selected. I'm going to click on it to select it, duplicate the layer, click OK, and then take my lock background, highlight it by clicking on it, and then click on the trash can to delete it and click yes. So now I can edit this. Now if I go over to my toolbar, here's the eraser that we used. I'm going to go up to the magic wand and click on that and select it. As you can see, once again there's a tolerance. So the higher my tolerance, the more it's going to see of that color to remove. The lower, the less it's going to see to remove. Once again, 32 is a good starting point. I also want to show you that up here on the left hand side, where it says New Selection and Add to Selection, most of the time it's going to be selected as a new selection. And what happens is when I take my magic wand and I click on the background, it's going to select this white once again up to an edge. Now if I go over and try to click in these areas where I need to remove this white, it's just going to select this area. So where I click, it's only allowing me one point at a time to select. Now if I go over here, where you can see the two little windows to add to selection, and I select that, now I can click all over the place. Now I've selected all these white areas, and what I'm going to do is, on my keyboard, hit delete, and now that background's gone. But we have all these what are called marching ants, which means this is all selected. So if we go to select and select deselect, those will disappear. Now I have an image that's ready to go on a background. Once again, if I want to, I can come over to Layer and add a black background by going to New Fill Layer, Solid Color, OK, select black, click OK. Now I'm going to go over to my layers and move this one up again so I can see what it looks like. Make sure I didn't miss any little bits of white. I don't need this layer anymore, so I'm going to delete it, highlight it, and click on the trash can. And what that shows me now is my transparent background. Now what I'm going to do is go back and show you another way to do it. And sometimes this can be tricky with certain images, but it is really fast. If I select Control, Alt, and Z on my keyboard, it will go back. So I'm going to keep pressing that until I get back to my solid white background. And I'm going to go to Select, Deselect. So now I have basically where I started. I'm going to use a tool that is up in the Select part of the menu, and it's called Color Range. If I use the eyedropper that comes up when you select Color Range, and I select the white, we'll see a solid black image, and that's what it's going to keep. If I push the fuzziness up, we'll start to see it's going to start taking out a little more, until now it's really selecting almost the whole image, and I don't want that. So if I push this all the way back, we will see it's selecting basically this entire white background, which is the white in here, and the black is what we're going to keep. But there's a few sections in here that it's going to remove because some of these shades in here are basically white. And that's the problem with the color range tool. It's very graphic dependent. If you have a very solid image with no real white in the image, it works great to remove that background. If I do this now, if I click OK, and then I press delete on my keyboard, we'll see that we have the transparent background. But you can see in here it took out some of the white in this image. And what that means is the black of my shirt is going to show through here, and I don't really want that effect. So if I go to select, deselect so I get rid of the marching ants, we can see that there are a few areas in here. And let me zoom in, and if you press Control plus on the keyboard, it's going to make it bigger. If you select Control and then push minus on the keyboard, it makes it smaller. So we'll blow it up, and you can see here that it's removed some of these very light shades of white that were in this color. And let me shrink it down a little bit. And if I throw a background on here, so if I go to Layer, New Fill Layer, Solid Color, okay, black, and then I move this up, we can see that these areas are now black instead of white, which doesn't really look too bad in this image. It's going to be a personal preference, but you can see that it is much faster. It's basically one click and you can remove that whole range of color, but it will really remove a little bit too much on certain images. But that is another way to take out the background. It's the end of part 2. Thanks a lot. This third and final chapter, I want to show you a trick that I like to use whenever I'm printing on a shirt. Let's say black, and in this image we have black. Now, if I remove the black out of this image, what that means is it's going to use the black of the t-shirt to create the black. And that's going to give me probably the darkest looking black. I do believe it looks a little bit better than having black ink. And we're going to save money because we're not printing white ink there and we're not printing black ink there. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So we have all this black in this image. And what I'm going to do is remove all this black. So what I'm going to do, and in this case, using select and color range is going to be really good because I want to remove all the black. So with the eyedropper, I'm going to click on the black in the image somewhere. And now I can see here, if I push this up, how much it's going to take out. And I want to take out all this black, so I'm going to move this fuzz all the way up. If you can see here though, it's going to remove some of these shades. So I'm going to back it down until I don't see that anymore. Right around there. Move it up a tiny bit more. And click OK. Now I've got a whole bunch of marching ants all over the place. If I click delete on my keyboard, all that black is now gone. I'm going to go select and deselect so I can remove the marching ants. Now by looking at this image, it definitely looks a lot different. And it looks a little weird, but if I go over here to layer, we'll put another background layer on so you can see. New fill layer, solid color, OK. It's already selected black, I'm going to click OK. And then go over to my layers and move this on top of the black. As you can now see, all the black's been taken out, but the black background's creating the black in the image. That's going to give you really crisp looking prints. And like I said, it's also going to save you a lot of money on ink. So let me remove this black background so we can see what it looks like again. So select it and click delete. Yes. And I will save this image. I'm going to do the same thing. File. Save as. I'm going to call this one a little different name. I'm going to call it Test Tiki for Black. So I know if I put this on a black shirt, it's going to use the black in the shirt for my black line work. Once again, it's going to be a TIFF. If it's not, I'll go down and select TIFF. Layers are going to shut off because I only have one. Save. Once again, image compression. None or LZW, what you want to use. I want to use LZW because it's a lossless compression. It looks good still. Interleaved. IBM PC. And most importantly of all, save transparency is selected. I click OK. And now I've saved this file. And now I can print this onto a shirt and use a little less ink and get a nice rich black because the shirt's creating the black. And that's just another little tip we use when we print some of our images. Thanks a lot.